Shocking revelation, billionaire CEO discovers his Maid'S unexpected hidden struggle at midnight. Thomas Bainbridge lay in his plush king-sized bed, drenched in the sticky heat of a Silicon Valley summer night. The sleek lines of his penthouse overlooked a horizon of twinkling lights, a scene often marketed as the pinnacle of success. But tonight, he felt anything but like a titan. The weight of his empire pressed on his chest, a relentless grasp that stole sleep and peace from him. Thoughts raced through his mind like a runaway train, worries about meetings, investors, and the future of his tech startup. He sighed, threw back the covers, and stumbled groggily toward the kitchen for a glass of water. In the dim light, he found Maria, his maid, silhouette soft against the glow of her phone. Tears shimmered like tiny stars on her cheeks as she carefully navigated a conversation that brought her heart to its knees. Thomas hesitated, a sense of intrusion swirling in his gut, but the rawness of her emotion tugged at him. Here was a woman who bore the weight of her own world, one starkly different from his gilded life. Maria? He ventured softly, startled. She swiped her face, quickly hiding the phone. Mr. Bainbridge, I didn't see you there. Her voice trembled, the effort to maintain composure evident. Everything all right? He probed, uncertain why he felt such an urgency to know, as if her pain mattered to him in ways he hadn't acknowledged before. A moment passed, heavy with the unsaid. Finally, she relented, my daughter, she needs help. The bills are piling up. I don't know what to do. Each word struck him harder than corporate failures ever could. It was easy to compartmentalize losses in business, but this was raw, real, and palpable, igniting a thread of unfamiliar empathy within him. Suddenly aware of their contrasting lives, he tried bridging the gap. I can know. The response burst from her, fierce and defiant. I want to be your charity case. Thomas reeled, stung by disbelief and a touch of indignation. She was proud, fierce even. How could someone in such need turn away help? Yet her bravery stirred something inside him, forcing him to confront the ties of privilege and success that had shielded him from the struggles of others. His corporate world felt like an isolated island, disconnected from the shore of humanity. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The tension crackled in the air as they stood in this unexpected confrontation. Each was caught in a whirlwind of societal expectations, the invisible shackles that tied them down. He didn't want to offend her pride, but he felt an overwhelming need to truly support her journey, to help chase her dreams without stepping on her independence. But how? A gnawing frustration began to bubble inside him as he toyed with the thought of wealthy connections and corporate strategies. The very framework of success he'd built around his empire felt troublingly hollow now, sitting alongside her fierce ambition. As they faced the yawning chasm of their realities, a question hung in the air, waiting to be answered. Could Thomas tear down the walls around him, recognizing Maria's strength while he struggled with the weight of his own entitlement? The clock ticked ominously in the background, each second a reminder that the stakes were high, and for both of them, a change was coming. Would it be a change for the better, or would it seal their fates apart forever? The silence in the kitchen thickened, an unspoken battle waging between two souls from entirely different worlds. Thomas, still reeling from Maria's fierce rebuff, sensed that her pride was just as powerful as her pain. A battle of wills sparked in the humid air. He took a step toward her, lowering his voice in a bid to soften the moment. Maria, I'm not trying to undermine you. I just want to help somehow, he said, the desperation creeping into his tone. She held his gaze, defiance mixing with vulnerability. And what do you think that looks like? A paycheck? A donation? I need stability, not another handout. Her words pierced him. He'd been raised to think of support in terms of financial aid, laying out cash as if it could simply wipe away hardship. But in this instant, he saw something larger, a need for respect and partnership, not charity. Okay, he took a deep breath, I get it. I don't want to pity you. But what if we work together? What if I could offer you a role that aligns with your skills and gives you some financial freedom? Maria raised an eyebrow. A role? Skepticism laced her words, yet he could see a flicker of curiosity. I mean it. You already manage my household. What if I also hired you to help with some of my business operations? Your perspective could be invaluable. You know how technology can change lives, even if it seems out of reach. For the first time, he saw a crack in her armor. Business? With you? She asked, her voice softer now. Why not? This is an opportunity for both of us, he pressed, feeling a strange empowerment surging within him. You're hardworking, smart, and you've faced more obstacles than I have. She looked down, the tensions thawing as a myriad of emotions flickered across her face. Hope, disbelief, and then a cautious determination. You're serious? Absolutely, he replied, the newfound connection sending warmth through him. If you can manage the chaos of this home, imagine what you could do with a role tailored for your strengths. Reluctantly, uncertainty still hung in her eyes. What if I fail? Failure is part of growth, he reassured her, stepping closer, bridging the final stretch between them. But I believe you're capable of so much more than you give yourself credit for. Let us take this leap together. Maria's thoughts raced, and he could see the gears turning. There was so much at stake for her, her daughter's future weighed heavily on her shoulders. The possibility of this opportunity danced at the edges of her apprehension, glimmering like hope in the dark, and just as she seemed to consider his proposition, the shrill ring of his phone shattered the moment, pulling Thomas from the warmth of their conversation. He glanced at the caller ID, the urgency flashing across his features. I have to take this. Go, she nodded, her expression a mixture of confusion and possibilities. We'll talk later. Grabbing the phone, he stepped into the grand living room, his heart a tempest of thoughts. What had he just proposed? Opening the door to Maria's life, sharing a path that could redefine them both. It was a step into uncharted territory, one that sent adrenaline coursing through him. As he pressed the phone to his ear, the conversation faded into the background noise of his mind. All he could think of was the way her eyes sparked with a hint of resilience. Would she embrace the change, take the step towards something uncertain but potentially beautiful? He was about to discover what real collaboration could mean, but would it be too late? The question lingered, echoing through the silence of the penthouse. Had he just altered the course of their lives forever? The phone call droned on, but Thomas hardly heard the voice on the other end. His thoughts were wrapped around Maria, her expression shifting from disbelief to curiosity, her walls slowly crumbling. He felt a mix of excitement and dread. What if she said yes? What if she didn't? Anxiety twisted in his gut like a coiled spring as he paced the grand living room, trying to focus but being pulled back to the kitchen, where vulnerability hung thick in the air. When he finally hung up, he knew he had to get back to her. Pausing for a moment, he took a breath, mentally preparing himself for whatever reaction she might have. This conversation was too crucial to go unaddressed. As he re-entered the kitchen, Maria was standing by the countertop, arms crossed. She looked like a warrior ready to face a challenge. The way she held herself told him that whatever uncertainty she felt before, it had transformed into something more guarded. Did you find the world's problems in a single phone call? She asked, sarcasm lacing her words, though her eyes still held the flicker of possibility. Not quite, he replied quickly, trying to keep things light despite the tension. But something came up that made me realize our conversation is important. We need to talk. Talk about what? She shot back. You already offered me a role, and now you've got something else on your mind. Her words felt sharp, and Thomas understood that she was afraid of this new territory too. He took a step closer. I want to know if you're truly considering it. What it could mean for you and your daughter. This isn't just talk to me, Maria. I want us to build something together, but I need to know if you can trust me. Maria's expression shifted, internal battles flickering across her face. Trust is a big word, Thomas. You're talking about intertwining our lives, and let us be honest, I'm not the type to forge partnerships easily. I get that. But think of it this way, offering you this chance isn't just good business, it's a way for both of us to redefine our lives. Your experience, your perspective, they're valuable in ways you might not even see yet, he replied, surprised by the passion in his voice. I'm not asking for a pity job, she said, her voice steadying. I want to stand on my own 2 feet. I need that for my daughter. I would never see it as pity. It's opportunity. A chance to create something meaningful beyond this moment, he replied, reaching for her hand instinctively. She hesitated, then met his gaze, the air crackled with mixed emotions, each heartbeat echoing the significance of what was unfolding. They stood close, separated only by a web of uncertainty and life itself. He could sense the weight of her decisions, a future hanging in the balance. What if I can't handle it? She asked quietly, the mask of confidence slipping just slightly. What if I fail? Failure isn't the end, he said firmly, drawing from the well of his own experiences. Each failure is a step towards something greater. You've already proven that you're a fighter, Maria. This is just the next battle. The tension simmered between them, and the enormity of the decision felt suffocating. Still, the possibility of change sparkled like fireworks in the night sky, tantalizingly close yet out of reach. Just then, the doorbell rang, an unexpected interruption slicing through the moment. They both jumped back as the reality of the outside world crept back in. Who could that be? She said, eyes wide with confusion that he shrugged before trying to shake off the weight of the conversation, hoping the moment would still be there when he returned. As he headed toward the door, a knot formed in his stomach. Who was waiting on the other side? And would this unwelcome visitor change the path they were about to embark on? The suspense hung heavily in the air as he turned the doorknob, unaware of the storm brewing just beyond his threshold. As he turned the doorknob, Thomas felt his heart race. The uncertainty gnawed at him. What if this visitor carried news that could unravel everything they had just begun to forge? With a deep breath, he swung the door open. Standing on the doorstep was a familiar face, one he hadn't seen in years. It was Peter, an old colleague from the finance world. He had a slumped posture, and the moment Thomas caught sight of him, a wave of mixed emotions washed over him. Peter's tough exterior had taken a hit, and the shadows under his eyes hinted at sleepless nights or some kind of turmoil. Thomas, Peter said, voice barely above a whisper, I need to talk to you. It's important. Now. Peter, Thomas hesitated, looking back toward the kitchen where Maria was still waiting. Behind him, the tension was palpable. He needed to return to her, to confront their shared moment of vulnerability. I wouldn't ask if it wasn't urgent, Peter pressed, urgency coloring his words. It's about the project, the one we were working on before everything went south. Thomas's mind buzzed. That project had cost him a fortune, and the fallout had left bruised egos and lost friendships. He felt torn between the past that had been a heavy burden and the present that held so much promise, possibly with Maria. Can it wait? Thomas asked, glancing back at Maria for support. She stood there, a blend of curiosity and concern, her arms now at her sides, but her eyes fixed on him, urging him to make the right choice. I can't go into details here, but this is about more than just business, Peter replied, desperation lacing his tone. I messed up, and now I need your help to fix it. Thomas sighed, caught between two realities. All right, he said, stepping aside. But make it quick. I have something important to discuss inside. Peter nodded, relief flooding his features. They moved into the living room, and Thomas briefly shut the door tight, blocking out the world that felt uncertain. As they settled onto the couch, Peter launched into a whirlwind of explanations. He spoke about missed opportunities and compromise strategies, about how the project had the potential to rebound with the right support. The more he talked, the more Thomas felt the familiar stirrings of ambition and greed creeping in. Yet, as he listened, his gaze drifted back to the kitchen. Maria might be standing there, waiting for his return. How did he balance her hopes with the possibility of rekindling a lost dream of his own? "Thomas, are you with me?" Peter's voice pulled him back. "I need your insight on this. We could turn it around if we act fast." "I get that," Thomas replied, his mind racing. But could he turn away from the potential of something beautiful with Maria for a fleeting chance with the past? He felt trapped between two futures, one filled with a new partnership and the other anchored in the remnants of old mistakes. Peter leaned forward, his voice lowering as though the weight of the world rested on his shoulders. "There's more at stake than just the project. It could unlock doors, wealth, everything you've ever wanted." As those words landed, a sudden wave of clarity washed over him. The excitement he once felt dulled against the looming promise of loss. He hadn't just risked his career, he was risking his chance with Maria. A silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken truths. He glanced back toward the kitchen, hoping to find a sign, but instead found only a reflective expression on Maria's face. "What will you choose, Thomas?" She seemed to be asking without words. In that moment, he realized some choices define who we are more than any luxurious opportunity ever could. Yet as he pondered his next move, the stakes began to rise. What if the news Peter carried today changed everything for them in ways he could never foresee? Would he step back into a world he once knew, or embrace the uncertain beauty standing just beyond the kitchen door? The tension in the air thickened. Peter reached for his phone, pulling Thomas's attention back. "I need your decision now." And just like that, Thomas's heart raced once more. With the weight of choices pressing down, he found himself standing at a crossroads. Which path would he take? With so much hanging in the balance, the realization struck him this was the moment that could define everything. What would he ultimately choose? The attraction of the past or the uncertainty of the future? Silence enveloped the room, a fragile bubble where time seemed to pause. Thomas's mind darted between memories of late-night meetings and the laughter shared over drinks with Peter, professions that had forged camaraderie but now seemed like ghosts haunting his decisions. He felt the weight of expectation pressing on his chest, suffocating yet tantalizing. Maria's warm presence lingered in his thoughts. She was in the next room, vulnerable and trusting. The promise of building something fresh with her shimmered, a beacon of hope against the backdrop of his old life. The concept of wealth, of forging a path back to success. Peter's words resonated, but were they enough to drown out the soft whispers of love and connection that pulled at his heart? "Thomas," Peter said again, pulling him from the spiral of indecision. "This could change everything for both of us, for you. Imagine the power, the resources. You wouldn't have to struggle." Struggle. The word echoed loudly in Thomas's mind. He thought of Maria's smile, the way her laughter made his worries feel like a distant memory. Her ambition rivaled his own, a spark against the mundane realities they both knew too well. Did he really want to exchange that for a new layer of old wounds? "Why now, Peter?" Thomas's voice cracked, barely concealing the mix of frustration and concern. "Why come to me of all people? You know how things ended between us. Why should I believe you?" Peter's eyes widened, a flicker of shame crossed his features. "Because I've hit rock bottom. Trust me when I say I wouldn't come here if I didn't truly believe this was the last chance. It's why I need you. No one knows the market like you do, and I can't do this alone." Lowering his gaze, Thomas took a deep breath, wrestling with the emotions churning within him. "I've moved on from that life." He hesitated, the words stuck in his throat. It was more than just the project, more than just Peter's desperation. It was a turning point, and he felt the weight of the future pressing on him. "You don't understand," Peter pressed on. "This isn't a game. They're coming for us. If we don't act now, we could lose everything again." A chill ran down Thomas's spine. The glare of reality pierced through the idealistic haze he'd wrapped around his life with Maria. The stakes had escalated far beyond financial forecasts and potential gains. Would getting involved plunge him back into a world filled with stress and betrayal? Or would it unearth some twisted version of redemption he wasn't sure he wanted? As thoughts raced, he glanced toward the kitchen. Maria remained there, waiting, unsuspecting. The warmth of her presence cut through the chaos in Thomas's heart. He knew the answer lay not just in ambition, but in connection. But could he voice that to Peter? "Just give me time to think," he heard himself say, surprised by the softness of his own words. "I need to talk to Maria." Peter's expression hardened. "Time is a luxury we don't have, Thomas. They're not going to wait." The urgency in Peter's voice stirred something within, awakening doubts he thought were laid to rest. Behind him, in the kitchen, Maria was lovingly preparing dinner. In a world of chaos, she represented tranquility, and the last thing he wanted was to drag her into a storm. "Maybe this is your chance, Thomas," Peter insisted, biting his lip as if wrestling with the next words. "If you open this door again, you might find respect, power, everything you've wanted." Thomas swallowed hard. His heart hammered against his ribs. In this moment, he had to decide, was he ready to sacrifice his newfound happiness for a chance that felt both promising and perilous? "Are you willing to risk it all?" Peter asked, intensity sharpening his gaze. With that, Thomas understood. This was about more than just business or rekindling old ambitions. It was about choosing what truly mattered, what made him feel alive. He stood up abruptly. "I'll talk to her. You wait here." As he moved toward the kitchen, anxiety surged through him. His steps hesitated at the threshold. What if Maria's reaction changed everything? What if she didn't understand his decision at all? The sound of sizzling lent a homely warmth to the atmosphere, contrasting sharply with the turmoil in his heart. As he paused, he could almost hear the future beckoning. But which future? With a deep breath, he pushed open the kitchen door, ready to face the one person who could ground him in the midst of this chaos. "Maria," he began, his voice wavering. "I need to talk." Just as he spoke, the kitchen light flickered ominously, plunging them momentarily into darkness. In that heartbeat of uncertainty, a fresh rush of dread coursed through him. What would she say when he revealed the truth? What shadows would be cast across the fragile world they had begun to build together? The emotional intensity of the moment gripped him. Could their bond withstand the storm brewing at the edge of his past? And just as doubt grappled with hope, a new realization dawned: sometimes, the hardest conversations lead to the most profound transformations. But would this be one of those moments? The darkness enveloped them, a heavy shroud that seemed to thicken the air. Thomas stood motionless, the words he needed to say hanging in the air like an unplayed note. The flickering light returned, illuminating Maria's confused expression. "What's wrong?" she asked, her voice soft yet steady, a beacon piercing through his swirling thoughts. I. He scrambled for words, each one slipping through his fingers like sand. "I don't know how to start." Her brow furrowed. "Is it about work? You seem tense." He nodded, wrestling with the truth that felt so heavy now. "It's Peter." The name seemed to echo, casting a shadow over her delicate features. "Peter? I thought you weren't in touch with him anymore," she replied, curiosity mixing with a hint of concern. "I wasn't. But he needs my help." The words poured out. "We have this opportunity, and it's significant, but it's complicated. It could mean a lot for us, for me. But it comes with risks that I didn't want to drag you into." Maria's eyes darkened slightly. "What kind of risks?" He felt the pressure mounting. "Things, from my past. The kind of chaos I've worked hard to escape." A thin line formed between her brows as if she was piecing together fragments of a puzzle. "You think this could affect us?" The question made his heart flutter. "Yes. I mean, potentially. If I choose to get involved again, I might be inviting trouble into our lives." I don't want to hurt you, Maria. She stepped closer, and he could almost see the wheels turning in her mind. But does this opportunity help you? Help us? Thomas swallowed hard. It might. I could gain leverage, but at what cost? I'm afraid of what it means for our life, for what we're building together. Tension hung between them, a fragile strand on the verge of snapping. How much are you willing to risk? She finally asked, her voice steady but tinged with emotion. He wanted to reach out, to comfort her, to assure her that everything would be okay. But a part of him hesitated. I don't know, Maria. I feel torn. I see that. She looked down for a moment, collecting her thoughts. But you need to remember, you're not alone in this. Whatever you decide, we should face it together. I want to support you, but you have to be honest. Her words struck him deep. I'm scared that this decision might ruin everything. Maria clasped his hands, grounding him. Then let us make that choice together. Don't shut me out. Her warmth helped steer the storm raging inside him. He could feel the sincerity in her touch, yet the shadows of his past loomed large. What if I fail? Then we'll pick up the pieces together, she said gently, her eyes locking onto his with fierce determination. I believe in you, and in us. Thomas's heart swelled and sank in equal measure. Could he really accept her unwavering faith, knowing the stakes? Was he willing to risk everything for a chance that might promise success? Just then, a loud crash resonated from the other room, a stark interruption that shattered the delicate moment they were sharing. They both turned, alarmed. What was that? Maria asked, her voice tight with apprehension. I'll check, Thomas replied, heart racing again but for a different reason. As he slipped away, the doubts from before were now mingling with curiosity. Whatever it was, it felt like a sign of impending chaos, a fitting echo of the turmoil he was inviting back into his life. What awaited them behind that door? Was it simply an accident, or was it a message about the darkness that could follow him if he stepped back into that world? The future felt more uncertain than ever, and with each step, he felt the weight of responsibility tugging at his very core. Thomas hesitated at the threshold, ready to confront the unknown. But lurking behind that moment was another inevitable truth: sometimes, the loudest crashes herald the beginning of something transformative, or utterly devastating. Would he choose to turn back, or push forward into the choice waiting just beyond? With a deep breath, Thomas opened the door slowly, the creak echoing in the tense silence. The living room lay scattered, papers strewn across the floor, and a lamp flickered unsteadily. His heart raced as he scanned the chaos, dread settling in. Maria stepped in behind him, eyes wide. What happened? I don't know, he replied, kneeling to gather the papers. As he lifted a few, he spotted a crumpled envelope. A name scrawled across it caused his blood to run cold. Peter. What's that? Maria's voice wavered, drawing closer. He held it up, his mind racing. It's from Peter. There's something in here. Her expression shifted from concern to outright alarm. Is he trying to reach you? What did he want? Frantically opening the envelope, Thomas unfolded a letter. As he read the words, shock rippled through him. He says he's in trouble. Something serious involving money and people I thought were behind me. Maria gasped softly, stepping closer. Do you think it's connected to the opportunity he mentioned before? Maybe, he said, shaking his head. But how can I know if this is real? I don't want to get drawn back into that life. But if you don't help him, her voice trailed off, leaving the weight of the decision heavy between them. Then what? He could end up in a worse situation. It feels like I'm being pulled in all directions. She knelt beside him, her gaze steady. You can't carry this alone. You need to think clearly about all this. With a sigh, he ran a hand through his hair, frustration rising. Every time I think I'm out, they pull me back in. I thought I left all of that behind. Right, but it's also your choice, she reminded him softly. What do you want? What are you willing to sacrifice? Thomas wanted to scream. A voice in him kept arguing against himself. In that moment, he felt as if the walls were closing in. I don't know. I thought I was moving on. What if I take this step and everything falls apart? Maria's hand found his shoulder, her comforting touch a lifeline. This is part of you too, Thomas. But so is the life we've been building. You don't have to choose one over the other. He felt her sincerity wrap around him, trying to give him strength. But what if trusting Peter meant unearthing a storm he thought was long settled? A noise from the window broke the tension. A shadow moved outside, and both Thomas and Maria turned. Their hearts raced again as moments stretched in silence, then a quick flash of light caught his eye, a car pulling up outside. The unmistakable silhouette of a familiar figure approached the door. Who is that? Maria whispered, instinctively moving closer to him. Thomas squinted, the voice of his past whispering warnings in his ear. It looks like don't open the door. Maria urged, gripping his arm. I need to see, it might be Peter. But even as he spoke those words, doubt gnawed at him. He remembered the chaos they had worked so hard to escape, the madness that had once entwined him so tightly he could hardly breathe. He hesitated, his hand hovering over the doorknob. What if this was a trap? His heart threatened to burst out of his chest, torn between the past and the future, between loyalty and self-preservation. The seconds stretched painfully long. Behind him, Maria's grip tightened, full of potential fear and solidarity but also unmistakable power. Would he open that door, risking all he'd built for a connection that might pull him back into the storm? As the figure knocked louder, the sound resonated through him like a drumbeat of destiny, pulling him closer to a decision he knew could change everything. Go or stay? He murmured, the weight of the question almost unbearable. And this time, it wasn't just the past at stake, it was the life he had chosen, the love he fought for, and everything teetering on the edge of that very door. Would he step back into chaos, or deny the call that echoed from the past? Thomas took a deep breath, fingers trembling over the doorknob. The knock came again, insistent. He could hear Maria's breathing behind him, quick and shallow. Would it even matter if Peter was at the door? Please don't open it, her voice was firm now, cutting through his confusion like a sharp knife. He turned slightly to look at her, at the worry etched on her face, and the last remnants of his resolve wavered. I don't know, Maria, he replied, his voice barely above a whisper. What if he really needs my help? What if I ignore him and he gets hurt? Or what if you open that door and everything you've built comes crashing down? She countered, her eyes fierce. Think about us, about this life. In that moment, he felt the weight of the world bearing down. The past clawed at him, whispering doubts and fears, a dark echo of his former self. But another part of him, one fueled by hope and the love he found in Maria, urged him to step away. As if sensing his hesitation, the figure on the other side knocked again, this time harder, a familiar desperation in the sound. Thomas. It's me. Peter's voice cut through the tension, a breathless plea that sent chills racing down Thomas's spine. He hesitated again, torn between the loyalty he once felt for his friend, the brotherhood they had forged in their past, and the life he had worked so hard to create. Did Peter even deserve his trust after everything that had happened? Please, just open the door. Peter shouted, urgency lacing his tone. I don't have time to explain, but I'm in trouble. Real trouble, and I need your help. Maria's grip on Thomas's arm tightened. What if there's more to this? What if it puts us in danger? What if he is telling the truth? Thomas argued back, desperation creeping in. They stood there, faced with the choice that felt impossibly heavy. The room around them fell quiet, every muffled sound amplifying the gravity of the decision. Thomas, Maria said softly, her finger gently brushing against his skin. Whatever you decide. I'm here with you. But you need to think about what this might mean for us. His heart raced with uncertainty. How could he weigh his history with Peter against their future together? The two lives felt like opposing forces pulling him in either direction. Is it worth the risk? He found himself asking aloud, seeking any clarity to guide him. There was no immediate answer, just the fading sound of the car engine outside and the rapid beat of his heart. Thomas. Peter's voice persisted, strained and panicked. I wouldn't come if I didn't need you. With a swift motion, Thomas turned back to the door, mind racing. Could he trust the man standing outside, the one who had shared both triumphs and failures so long ago? He felt Maria's warmth envelop him, grounding him amidst the turmoil. You don't have to do this alone. We can face anything together, she reassured him, her eyes alive with determination. Swallowing hard, Thomas hesitated just one more moment, feeling fate hanging in the balance. Okay, he breathed, as uncertainty washed over him anew. I'll open it. He grasped the doorknob firmly, the cold metal pressing into his palm, his pulse quickening with what came next. Just then, a loud bang from the back of the house shattered the silence. What was that? Maria gasped, fear mingling with sudden urgency. Stay here. Thomas ordered. But deep down he knew he couldn't let her stay behind. The past may have haunted him, but the present felt far more dangerous. Before he could process the implications of each choice, he flung the door wide open. What awaited him on the other side could either spell salvation or disaster. Thomas! Peter exclaimed, wide-eyed and frazzled, relief mingling with dread. But before he could explain, something else crashed behind him, like a storm breaking loose. And then a voice cut through the chaos, a voice he thought he'd never hear again. Thomas, we need to talk, it said, sending a shiver down his spine. Could he ever escape the shadows of his past, or was this just the beginning of an even greater storm? Thomas stood frozen, the world around him fading as recognition struck him like a lightning bolt. The voice belonged to Samantha, a name that had been relegated to a corner of his mind, dusted off only during the darkest moments when the past tried to seep back into his present. Samantha. He finally managed to utter, his voice wavering. Yes, Thomas. I came here for a reason. She stepped into the dim light of the doorway, her face a warped mix of hope and fear, just like the girl he once knew. Before she could utter another word, Peter pushed through the door behind him, clearly agitated. You know her? He asked, eyeing Samantha with a mix of suspicion and disbelief. Not now, Peter. Thomas snapped, a surge of irritation rising within him. He needed to process, to understand the whirlwind that had just crashed into his life. Maria stepped closer, her protective instincts flaring. What are you doing here, Samantha? We have a right to know. The tension hung thick in the air, palpable enough to slice through. Samantha's eyes darted between them, seeming to weigh the gravity of the situation. She opened her mouth but then closed it again, taking a deep breath as if gathering the courage to forge ahead. The truth is I didn't come just to find Thomas, she finally confessed, her voice shaky but resolute. I came because I need his help. My life, it's a mess. Everything has spiraled out of control. I thought you might understand. Understand what? Thomas snapped, confusion turning to anger. You've been gone for years, and now you just show up with chaos on your heels. I didn't plan this, she implored, her voice breaking. I wouldn't have come if I had any choice. You have to believe me. You of all people should know how hard it is to escape the past. In that moment, Thomas felt a surge of empathy crash over the rising tide of indignation. He remembered the girl who had once shared dreams with him, the girl who had also run from their shared history. Just tell us why. Please, he urged, his heart pounding. Samantha hesitated again, glancing over her shoulder as if waiting for someone else to appear. I'm in danger, she whispered finally. There are people looking for me, people who want retribution. It involves Peter, too. Thomas's stomach twisted. How did Peter fit into this? What are you talking about? He demanded, his voice sharp. How do I have anything to do with your problems? Because, Samantha's voice was barely audible, of what happened back then. You don't know everything. Not about me, not about Peter or the choices we made. The walls began to close in, memories flooding back, dark deeds coming alive in the dimly lit room. The weight of secrets they had all carried pushed down on him like a lead blanket. Marie tightened her grip on Thomas's arm. Her eyes flashed with concern, urging him to reconsider. This is getting too complicated, Thomas. We need to be careful. But just as he opened his mouth to respond, another loud bang echoed from the back of the house, this time more intense, bringing every heart in the room to a standstill. What was that? Maria whispered, her eyes wide. We have to find out, Thomas said, bracing himself. He turned to Peter. You stay with Maria. I need to talk to Samantha. Now. Giving a quick nod, he felt the urgency in the air as if the very walls of his past were crumbling around him once again. As they moved further into the house, he paused, grappling with his emotions. What more could he uncover about a past he thought he'd left behind? But then he thought of Maria's worried expression and the chorus of those seething memories that always lurked just below the surface. Why now, Samantha? Why come to me? Thomas asked, as they neared the back door, unaware of what lay waiting beyond it. The moment of clarity was near, but it would take him deeper into a world of betrayal and danger. Echoes of a life almost forgotten surged back to him, compelling him to confront everything he thought he had escaped. Was this just the beginning of an unraveling he had never anticipated? Or could he possibly find a way to navigate through the tumult? As Thomas approached the back door, his mind raced with chaos. Samantha's unexpected arrival was a whirlwind, igniting buried memories, yet her description of danger stirred every protective instinct within him. He turned to face her, seeking answers. Samantha, just tell me what is going on. Who's after you? His frustration bubbled over, a mix of care and confusion. She could see the tension etched into the lines of his face, mirrored in the rapid rhythm of his pulse. There are people from our past, people who didn't forgive, who think they can settle old scores, she replied, her voice low but urgent. Thomas felt the weight of those words settle heavily on his chest. This wasn't just about him anymore. It was about the life he was trying to build with Maria, about the future they had begun to forge together. Turning back towards the kitchen, he caught Maria's worried gaze. He couldn't drag her into this. Stay back, Maria. Please, he murmured, taking a shaky step toward Samantha. Truths were surfacing, and he was desperate for clarity. But you can't go alone. Maria's voice was laced with panic. I have to make sure it's safe, he interrupted, not wanting to drag her further into the murky waters of his past. He advanced toward the back door, moving swiftly and deliberately. Trust me, Thomas. You don't want to underestimate this, Samantha warned, her eyes darting around anxiously. They're relentless. As he swung the door wide, flinging it open, the outside world greeted him with silence, a stark contrast to the chaos in his heart. The night air was still, like the calm before a storm, hanging on the precipice of something vast and undefined. Thomas couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Samantha, he whispered, glancing around the dimly lit patio. If they're really after you, we need to get somewhere safe now. Agreed, she replied, and together they stepped into the cool darkness, their silhouettes melding with the shadow of the house. But just as they reached the edge of the property, the tension shattered like glass. A voice rang out from the shadows, heavy and chilling. You didn't really think you could escape, did you? Thomas's stomach sank as he recognized the figure stepping out of the darkness, a man he hoped he would never see again. Mark. The architect of ruin in their lives. Mark. Thomas breathed, each syllable a reminder of a life filled with manipulation and betrayal. The past flowed back over him like a tide. Maria dashed to Thomas's side, her expression a mixture of fear and resolve. Who is he? She asked, glancing between Thomas and Samantha, piecing the puzzle together. Someone from my past, Thomas said, his jaw clenching. He stepped protectively in front of Maria, desperation flooding through him. "What do you want?" Mark smirked, eyes glinting in the dim light. "To finish what we started. You think running away will change anything? You've dragged her into your mess. Leave her out of this." Thomas shouted, urgency pushing him forward. "This is about you and me. You had your chance." Mark merely chuckled, the sound grating against the stillness of the night. "Oh, but I came to settle scores with both of you. This isn't just a social call." As he stepped closer, a chill cascaded down Thomas's spine. It was time to take a stand. He could feel Maria's presence beside him, solid and unwavering. This was the family he wanted to protect, the life he was determined to fight for. "Listen, whatever it is you want, you won't get it from us," Thomas said, narrowing his eyes, something fierce igniting within him. "We've moved on." Samantha's voice was strong now, edging forward. "We won't be afraid anymore. Not of you, not of a past that no longer defines us." Thomas felt Maria's fingers entwined with his, and the strength of their bond shimmered like a beacon through the dark. Maybe this was it, the moment he could shift the tide. "You think this ends here?" Mark spat, taking another step forward. "You're wrong. This is just the beginning. I have plans that involve more than just you two." Thomas's heart raced, but determination twisted through him like steel. "We stand together. You don't dictate our stories anymore." As he spoke, the atmosphere simmered with courage and unity. With a swift motion, he grasped Maria's hand tighter, ready to face whatever storm awaited them. Mark scowled, sensing the shifting tides. But before he could respond, the sudden blaring of sirens echoed off the walls of the quiet evening. Everyone paused. "Looks like it's time to go," Samantha blurted, urgency gripping their movements. "Get in, now," Thomas commanded, guiding Maria swiftly back towards the house. They were escaping the shadow of the past, stepping into the dawn of a new reality. As they moved back inside, fueled with adrenaline, Thomas realized that no matter what lay ahead, something profound had shifted. They'd chosen connection over chaos, family over fear, and as they closed the door behind them, a new understanding wrapped around them, a choice to face the future together, turning the page on past trials and tribulations. No longer just the remnants of what was lost, but forging a path toward hope and healing. Together, Thomas whispered, looking at each of them, the strength of their connection burning bright. Together, Maria echoed back, her eyes ablaze with determination. As sirens faded into the distance, there was finally an undeniable truth: together, they could rewrite their story. Together, they could truly begin anew. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories, leave a like now to feed the algorithm, comment your reactions and feelings about the ending, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. This is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now. Don't wait not even one more second to share.